It's 13:30. Do a roll call?
Okay, Phil Bachler,
Present.
Michelle Edwards, Jason Hastings, Ian Fisher,
Present.
Jeff Hallstrand, Mike Hauschild, Darla Isham is excused, Roxanne Kahan, April Madrano, Marv Neviller is
Present.
online, Kristen Polachek, not seeing her yet, Kathy Parpart, Roger Petrick is excused, Doug Rasmussen, Phil Richards is,
Present.
and Brian Schmidt is excused. Pardon? Yep, Ian Fisher, yep. And he responded. So, yep, you have your quorum.
Okay. We'll go to our communications and announcements.
Hi, this is Roxanne. For those that are online, there are quite a few announcements, and I'll try to keep them brief. If you have questions, you can reach out to me independently or ask questions as you feel appropriate. So, just a little bit of the background on May 30th, because we haven't met since for a while. May 30th, there was propane training in Phillips here for firefighters and responders. We had a fair display. There is now a chem pack available through the HERC, which is our regional health care emergency response committees, both East and West Coast. They have a protocol that will be addressing how Price County wants to respond with that. They also, they being the North Central Wisconsin HERC, has a health care surge annex. Well, and it could be the West, I'm not sure. The West HERC also had a chem hazmat for a pediatric response and surge hospitals. We have been involved with the commodity flow study as part of a regional effort to find out what's actually traveling on our highways and byways. We'll be working on airport spill prevention plan in the future. And there is the Governor's Conference coming up March 10th through the 12th in Green Bay. And I think that covered most of it. Any questions?
On that chem pack, can I just ask for, maybe it's Marv and Mike, like if you were to come upon something where somebody got toxic chemical on them, would you know how to get these chem packs, or are you familiar with the chem packs?
No.
Okay. That was my response too when I heard of them. So there is, kind of an outline, and there are these chem packs available within our region. So I think kind of talk to Roxanne about maybe meeting with some of those players in that, so that they know the protocol and how to get them if needed.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, an education piece on that, and then how we are going to respond in the county so that we all know, like Michelle was saying, how to get those when we need to,
Mhm.
the protocol. Yep.
Are these in the county where they're available?
No, typically the HERC wants to strategically place their assets within 90 minutes of any given point of their jurisdiction. So technically, as an emergency manager, I fall in the Northwest region. So they let me play with them. That is an asset that we can tap if we need to. It's also officially as part of the North Central HERC, which is what the healthcare facilities are involved with. I'm not sure where they're actually located right now, if they're have received them in the region yet.
There's two different locations within our northern region.
Okay. Do you know where those are?
I do. I don't know if it's like,
Well,
I'll get killed if I say
Yeah.
it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get that to the pertinent
I don't
folks.
know how secret it is.
And our HERC also has other assets. It's not just for that. So, I mean, we have other assets available.
Well, is this something that's, I mean, like if it's an individual thing, like you said, if somebody got spilled on, we should have that, or is it like a mass casualty type of thing, or, I mean,
So there's been mixed things that I've heard. My understanding, one call that I was on, they said it is sitting in these medical facilities, these 2 medical facilities waiting. So if you had like a farmer that got in contact with this chemical, I mean, your time is limited on when you need to provide this medication. So it would be something that the ambulance would maybe know. They would call ahead to that facility for this one person to get it. Then another call I was on, they said, oh no, this is for when you have something, a mass thing happens, that they would then bring this to you. So that's part of what we need to figure out too, is if it's supposed to be something we would just transport that person to the facility that has it and they would use it, or if it's supposed to be something that comes out to a mass, and maybe it's both, but I don't know what the answer is.
So we just shouldn't have that happen here, and we're okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
We all have to be careful.
Well, to Doug's point though, 90 minutes, if they're within 90 minutes, let's just hypothetically say there were some in Park Falls. My experience with chemicals is that may as well not take them there in 90 minutes because that's not going to do any good. That's a really
Some of
fire
these,
department within a few minutes getting there and administering this stuff. Otherwise, it'll be great for the hospital to have it somewhere.
Mhm.
But
yeah, and they were talking nerve agents and so on, and I suspect that it's geared toward larger municipalities, but we just talked about north of 29 and how we respectively should have some type of response to any given toxin. So, but we'll look into this and get an education piece together and maybe present that at a future meeting. Oh, you're going to miss out on that, Michelle. I'm speaking to your future.
I'm just bringing you things to do, so you don't have to feel like there'll be
Always-
nothing to do in the future.
Necessarily, because there's room for retirees.
Yeah, that's true. You can be.
Don't plan to survive.
On to the next topic, Roxanne? No.
Doug, it's all yours.
Kristen
All right.
Polachek joined
So
a
this is
little
something-
late here.
Oh, Christine.
Yeah, I joined a little late while you were talking about that last topic, so sorry about that.
Thank you, Christine.
So this is something we should be
Kristen?
looking into for the future reference here, because I mean, Mike runs into something and all of a sudden, okay, you can wait an hour and a half before you die and you're okay. So, all right.
And I think our hazmat team.
Yeah, yep. Matt
Are you
Taylor,
aware of these-
Ashland Fire.
Yeah. Are you
A little bit,
aware
yeah,
of
'cause
this?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, I took a advanced hazmat life support. So I'm not an expert. I just have to mute for 1 second to hug my dog because I'm attending from home. So I'm not super familiar with the chem packs, other than you can be used for an individual or for a large incident, but they're geared more towards the nerve agents. The local hospitals should have enough supplies to kind of keep the patient going until these chem packs come in. And quite really the biggest thing with poisoning, other than beconning, is supportive care, like standard airway care, kind of basically keeping the patient going. And then for nerve agents, just kind of controlling seizures, which every ER in the region should have enough medication to manage a seizure patient for a bit of time. So the chem packs are great to help stabilize the patients, to start getting them out from the one main facility, the bigger facilities, but they're not something that you need to have in an ambulance or at every hospital. These are just like the backup lines to what the local hospitals have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it because that would be bad if our hazmat team didn't know.
And the caller who was just talking is,
Stewart.
Kristen Polachek. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Stuart,
Yeah,
Matt Mathias.
No, Matt Spangler. No, Matt Spangler.
oh, Max,
The
okay.
hazmat team coordinator. Yep.
Okay. Moving right along. The minutes of the January 17th meeting. Everybody should have gotten a copy of that emailed to them some time ago, and there's also one here in this packet. If you haven't had a chance to refresh your memory on this. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Doug, this is Phil. I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Okay, Phil makes a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. Jeff? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Committee structure membership.
Okay. Well, we have some people that will be retiring and have retired, and we have some replacement folks in the house. So I think we want to make sure that we are staffed properly. One of the things that we need to do is we are going to amend our bylaws is to bring it up within 30 days prior to approval. So our next meeting, our typical business meeting is in January. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on some of these things in the bylaws that might need tweaking between now and January so we can act on it on January. Some of those would be attendance, election of officials, per diem would be the other one. So,
Roxanne, one of the other issues was Phil Richard is retiring and he needed to know if the DNR should be supplying a replacement for him or if something else is desired. Right, Phil? I believe?
Yeah, that's correct. So I'll be retiring in January sometime, and I don't know right now if there's anybody available, but if it's, a preference that, you want somebody from the DNR on this, then I'll try and get somebody or try and make arrangements for somebody to take over.
I can't speak for the group, but if I am to, then I would say that it would be a positive to have the DNR because that's where we get our spill reports. And then they
Always
can,
had- I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just said we always had a representative from the DNR as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, I know I took over for Steve. I think Steve Aschenbrucker was on here previously, and I've been on for, many years. I don't remember how long, but yeah, I can try and see who's available then, and try and get them in on the next call, possibly, or I guess by January.
So as far as the list of membership, I want to make sure that we are all in line with this. We have 5 membership groups that need to be filled, and it requires at least one representing each of these groups. So the first group is elected state or local officials. Second group, law enforcement, fire and rescue, emergency services, health professionals, local environmental groups, transportation, hospital. The third group is broadcast and print media. Fourth group, community groups. And the fifth group is a representative of facilities subject to Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. So one of the groups that is hard to keep anybody participating in is the broadcast and print media. Again, we fall in a different region than most. We don't have a TV station. Our newspaper comes out once a week, and our radio stations are limited too. So right now we have a representative from the radio station on here, and WCQM, which is fine. However, also in our bylaws, we state that if a member fails to attend 2 consecutive meetings, then we basically consider them inactive and try to replace them. However, replacing that particular group is extremely hard. So our options are to try and make a deeper group, or multiple people within that broadcast and print media, or to amend the bylaws for attendance to take out the 2 consecutive meetings, which would be something that we would move on when we go to approve the bylaws annually. Do we have any conversations that we can take place on this?
So Phil, you can look, see if you can round up somebody to take your spot.
Yep.
Okay. So our next meeting could be January. You could find somebody by then. Perhaps.
Yep, I'll certainly try. Yep.
Okay.
And Phil, we've got quite a few in group 2, so if you are not successful, we're pretty okay on the group 2. Group 3, we do have Jeff Hallstrand is also representing. So we do have 2 in that category or that group. Do we want to amend it so that we can kind of amend the attendance, where if member fails to attend 2 consecutive meetings?
My thought on that is we've had 2 meetings in 1 year. So if they don't do 2 consecutive, they've missed a whole year, which is.
Jeff, and
Seems
Jeff,
like-
you're listed as Norvado. Do they even still have a public service channel? So the media part of Norvado is no longer
Relevant.
viable, yeah.
So I would recommend that we consider, I know what you're saying, Michelle, that they are, if you miss 2 meetings and we only have 2 in a year, then you basically missed the year.
Maybe Tom from the paper, he's always online. He's the one that covers the meetings. Tom, Nick, what's the last name?
LaVenture.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I can, yeah, we can talk, because the radio station gave me another name of who they have covering their civic stuff. It's Austin somebody. Yeah, that guy.
Austin's from the radio station?
He's from the radio station?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's out, but I know he's been in contact with me and he wants to press releases, so
Oh,
Yeah, so there are
that would be a good
2
fit.
people that are standard coverage from both the paper and the
Okay,
radio station.
that we could potentially.
Yeah.
Yep. And I know that when originally we had somebody from the paper always attending, so they were just, and we can just look into that again. So the other thing that I would like to talk about would be election of officers, because we are meeting less frequent than we have in the past. We typically nominate and elect the vice or the chairperson on odd number of years, and the vice chair is even numbered years. So, were you, Michelle?
Well, I had kind of forgot. Technically, I was not vice chair. If we look at our meetings, we have Brian Ernst was elected as the vice chair, which now it doesn't look like he's even on the committee anymore. Maybe once he became chair, then he was. So I think currently we have no vice chair.
And it's an even numbered year, so we probably should have.
Well, that was last in 2024, January 2024, we did those elections.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think we do them, technically, our next election would be January 2025, right? An odd year. So
I
you're
was
still going
wondering,
to have to put vice in there because, yeah, you don't have a vice chair right now.
and also, so we do in our bylaws have, should an officer's position become vacant because of the end of the term, or an officer shall be elected to the vacant spot at the next LEPC meeting. And the officer shall have all rights and responsibilities to perform the duties of the office. And the officer should hold the title and position of the office until the next April election meeting, which again, that verbiage will change in January because we are, our typical business meeting is going to be in January, is held in January. So that last line will also be edited and changed for next year by law approval.
So
So,
you could discuss, and I don't know if it's a state thing that it's in there like that, but you could discuss having the terms being longer than 2 years for the officers also.
and that's true. Any preference to the length of office, anyone? No more than 2 years? Is this what we're hearing?
Till they no longer want it.
Oh, until they no longer want it. I'm not sure how I would put that in the bylaws. So yeah, I guess I could change it to until they resign or leave office.
Yeah, that would work. Or are replaced. Or need to be replaced, something like that.
Some of the contracts we're getting call it an evergreen contract. It doesn't have an end date to it. It's
Evergreen?
evergreen, yeah. That's the official words that they're using on it.
The legal term of it just always remains.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So until somebody
I was
feels,
making that up.
so until somebody feels it is needed to change who we elect, then in January, we will be selecting a vice chair, or do we want to appoint somebody for that position now? No, it's not on the agenda. You're absolutely right. So in January, we may adopt the verbiage of evergreen into the bylaws. And because it will be an odd year, we would be selecting a new chairperson. And because we have a vacancy in the vice chair position, we will be electing a vice chair also.
So Roxanne, let me ask you this. In group one for the elected officials,
Mhm.
is there a limit as to how many there could be?
No limits to any number.
I say Brian Ernst is still on there and he's the vice chair.
And it's evergreen.
He just may not know it. I mean,
Well,
but
and
just, I mean, he's still an elected official. He just changed roles from being a supervisor to the board chair, but there's no reason he couldn't still be.
and we should all endeavor to have an alternate for our positions who also would have the same rights and responsibilities. So try and have a backup for your position, and then that helps alleviate some of this, so.
I got Jason Hastings on here for.
For county right now, yeah. That is who Brian appointed to be on this committee.
Oh, okay, that's how he.
Yeah,
okay,
but there's nothing saying Brian couldn't still be a member of this committee.
Right,
Right.
okay. That's why I was wondering. I thought, well, I don't remember his name coming up before and it's just on here. Okay.
So to address what we need to submit to the board in February for membership, we'll go through in January and solidify it and vote on it. But as of now, the list that we have for memberships, we should have, Michelle, do you have an alternate that's going to be?
Yeah, Tiffany Palchek will take over for me. She's on the
I'm
call
sorry,
today
yes.
to see if she wants to. No. She will.
She wants to.
She wants.
She
to.
wants
She
to.
wants it all. All right, so Michelle is retiring, and thank you for your service, Michelle. So Tiffany.
So,
Hi, Tiffany.
Roxanne, besides having someone from each group, does the state require more than 5 people? Because there's 5 groups,
No, it's a minimum of 5
minimum of
people.
5.
Yep, in at least one in each group. And we feel because the LEPC should be a whole community committee, that's why we have so many representatives from across the board, because you don't want just 5 people making some of these decisions and only 5 people having the knowledge, so. Okay, so then we have, Phil, you're gonna try and find somebody potentially.
Yep.
And Kathy, Parport, we had you come in on our January meeting, so that was your first. She's replaced Jean Klimowski.
Yep.
And we have April, that is replacing Paul Melby. And I believe the rest of us will remain the same. Oh, no, we have Ian Fisher replacing Josh England.
Ian Fisher.
Ian Fisher. For the Marshfield Clinic, thank you. Or Marshfield Medical Center.
Yeah, whatever. Can I ask who the gentleman in the back is?
Oh.
I'm James Williams. I work for Wisconsin Emergency.
Oh, okay.
Oh. James Williams, yeah, Wisconsin Emergency Management is in the house. Okay, so those will be some of the things that are touched on in the bylaws. But the other point too is per diems. If you are paid and representing your community while you attend these, then the per diem would not apply to you. However, if you are a volunteer organization, if you are representing one of the civic groups, then I believe I'm correct in stating that you could be eligible for per diem.
Yeah, but I think that should be defined in the bylaws. Because there's nothing in the bylaws right now about anybody's per diem. It's just kind of assumed that if you're here because you're representing your employer, that you're getting paid for your time. But, Jeff probably isn't, but, and for sure Kathy isn't, but she's not on the per diem list right now. So that should be defined, what memberships get per diems and what don't.
So that will also be in our January bylaws. So there will be several updates to those. Just so that is clarified. And then our per diem is based on
Whatever the county board gets, right now it's $75 plus mileage.
the county board handbook, I believe, or something like protocol book or
Yeah,
procedure book. Okay.
yeah, and it would just be listed as whatever the county board per diem is at that time, so.
Okay. Any other questions, suggestions about committee meeting structures and membership? Okay,
So we'll have our election of both chairman and vice chairman in January. Is that the plan? Or are we gonna appoint somebody?
Or are we just gonna let? Yeah, we can. I mean, ultimately, what happens is we put together a list of members, LEPC members, that we feel represents our communities, and we submit that to the county board for approval. The county board approval is then sent to the state and is approved at the state. So it comes down to the state recognizing that we have all 5 groups represented in our community and that we have met our obligations for Community Right to Know Act. So in January, are we electing vice chair and chair? We
I mean,
can,
Is that?
yeah, we'll put that on the agenda for,
I would say yes, we need to.
yeah, because right now the appointment was by
Right.
the county board
There
chair.
would be no need to do it today because the vice chair's main responsibility is run a meeting when the chair can't, so.
Right.
Right. Michelle, you lucked out.
See?
Including, I was falsifying my position.
Cool.
Okay.
So you're off the hook, so you're good. All right. Anything else, or we're moving on here?
Moving on.
Moving right along. All right, emergency management report, hazardous spills.
I am pleased to say we have had no spills since our last report. Woohoo! Go Price County. Since January.
Okay. Level B hazmat team report.
We have the hazmat team online if they'd like to do a quick report out. Otherwise, I can just talk a little bit to it.
Yeah, I can hop on and chat a bit here. Kind of no big, actually any responses for our hazmat team, either at the state or county level for any of the counties we've had. So been a quiet year for that, which is good. The EPCA grants are, Roxanne can talk about it, but for whatever reason, the state delayed them. But I did some ordering. I'm in the process of ordering most of our equipment. I'm kind of in that first wave of spending and then just waiting to see invoices come back. One of the big things to note for Price County specifically, the chlorine meter, because I was looking at the chemical list of the tier 2 facilities, and I know the Park Falls water plant, at least as of when I looked at the stuff back in summer, used chlorine in their facility. I think one other facility did as well. So if there's any type of incident down there, we have a chlorine specific meter that we can use to detect any chlorine levels. Kind of the other big thing for the hazmat team itself is our trailer. We replaced our team trailer. We upgraded both sides, and it was time to replace it. Which the good news is now that we've got that trailer replaced, we're going to be looking to start doing some outreach with our 4 outreach training with each of our 4 counties. We're doing Bayfield County here as our test run coming up in December. And I'm actually looking to do Price County next in the spring. And I actually have a list of about 8 potential dates to provide if you want. I can't commit to any of the dates today. Plus, I'm sure folks on the other side of the call can't either. But at least get some dates out there. That way we can kind of weed out what doesn't work. I won't be able to commit to a date till first of the year due to our vacation picks and staffing stuff that dictates what days I can actually leave the city to attend training. Otherwise, all I need for that is just a host fire department. Probably invite whoever wants to come from the county, and we'll be basically showing the new trailer, kind of showing off some of the new equipment we've got in the last couple of years, and then as well as setting up the our decon equipment, because that's the number one thing we'll need assistance on an actual call is the decon line. Is there any questions for me?
Could you kind of go over the items that you are, that were approved for purchase? Are you getting all of those then? The items
I
are,
think I'll be able to. I'm working from home today, so I don't have the full list in front of me.
oh,
I
okay.
know the biggest thing I got was I'm getting 2 SCBA air cylinders because we bought 2 dedicated air packs for the trailer. So I have spare cylinders, binoculars just to kind of outfit our trailer because we couldn't fully outfit our old trailer because we were tight on space. This new one's got plenty of space. I do think, Roxanne, I may be able to purchase all that stuff as long as my prices from spring stayed consistent.
Okay.
Which my first two big purchases have been like spot on. There might be like one thing that's like $20 short type of thing. But I think right now I should be able to purchase everything off of that list that I provided you and was approved by the state. The other three counties is not the same situation, but for Price County it is.
Phil, you're cheating. I don't know if everybody can see, but Phil has a little friend with him today.
Captain?
Thank you. So
Yep.
for that would be in response to the EPCA computer and hazmat grant that we apply for every year. If you're interested in having the complete list that they being our Ashland Fire Team B hazmat team, I have a list available for those that are interested in seeing it, or I can email it to you. For the computer part of it, I purchased a tough book for emergency responding. And if we need to, I'm trying to learn it because I just got it and figure it all out. It's a little different from a normal, but it'll take the beating. So that's a good thing. A tough book. Lightweight, comes with a handle, hard case.
Takes a lick and keeps on ticking.
Well, it's not a Timex, but yep. So we'll find out if that's a thing that we will keep handy in the future. One of the things I always look at is to make sure that the battery life is good, that it has longevity, because once you're in an event like that, you may or may not have electrical hookups, so.
Okay.
Doug?
What's that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Doug?
Yeah.
This is Phil. If the captain from Hazmat's still online, I got one or two questions on that. On behalf of the Fire Association, Captain, were you going to train? I agree. It sounds like you're going to do primarily decon, but one of the questions that one of the chiefs asked is what level will you be training to, and will this be done on a countywide basis or individual departments? I'm sure you're not going to be able to run down here for 8 different departments.
It would pretty much just be a review of our operations. We wouldn't necessarily take any individual person to a specific hazardous materials level option. We're not qualified or we're not allowed to teach hazmat awareness or hazmat ops, etc. That's got to be through the technical college system. So we would just be reviewing our operations that we would do, and kind of like they'll show up. Hey, this is what we're gonna provide for you, the local fire departments. This is our capabilities, and then here's what we're going to be looking for to assist us, type of thing when we get there. And we would be doing it countywide on this first go around. So I was thinking
Okay.
possibly either Park Falls or Phillips, if one of those 2 fire departments is willing to host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's good.
And when were you hoping
Is there-
to do this?
In the spring.
Okay.
In the spring, I have 8 dates actually picked. Do you want me to list those here? Is there a good way, or is there somebody I could contact that I can provide to that?
Roxanne,
So
we
I
have
don't know how you-
we have an association meeting, Roxanne, on Monday night. Can you have the captain email them to you, and then you can disseminate them at the meeting?
Yeah, it's the last Monday of this month, and it's held where this month?
At Pike Lake.
Pike Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Roxanne, I'll shoot you an email with the potential dates and kind of, when we can actually, start narrowing it down, and then I'll shoot you the email here as soon as we log off of this meeting here.
okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
One last question, Captain, if I could. Do you think there's any possibility that any of that training will be done during the evening hours, or will this all be, during the 9 to 5, or?
No, it would be about a 2 hours, 2 possibly 3 hour session, and our thought was at night, because I'm sure that's quite a bit easier for volunteer departments and their lives and that sort of thing. So my thought would be, whether it's 6:30 start time type of thing, possibly 7, but ideally would be between 6 and 6:30, um, depending on what works.
And how long does
Perfect.
the
Well,
training
I'm-
last? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil. Oh,
Go ahead, Phil. I'll let you go first.
No, I just said we'll wait to watch for the date then at the association meeting, Matt.
Sounds good. And Roxanne, as far as the length of the training, I think right now I'm anticipating 2 hours. But that will depend on what happens when I do my first county drill here in a couple months. So it could be a smidge longer. It's not going to be. It will not exceed 3 hours. It's just whether it's closer to 2 or closer to 3 type of thing. I'll know more in December once I get my first run of doing this type of training.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So you talked about the EPRA stuff, or is that still?
I just wanted to, our 2024 anticipated grant recovery or reimbursements for the planning and administrative costs would be $8,485.23. And for the computer hazmat, our prorated amount is $6,172.01. In 2025, all emergency management funding has been reduced by 10% from the feds. So we'll still be doing what we do. We'll just be doing it with a little less financial backing.
So these will be down by 10%, these numbers?
Quite likely. Every year it's gone down a little bit, and nothing we seem to say seems to penetrate that disasters, and they know, are getting more frequent, more severe. But I think they're looking for community resilience and are hoping that we are able to recover on our own more frequently.
Okay.
Also, I didn't mention before that the governor's conference is looking for abstracts. So if you are interested, some of the tracks that they are looking at are interoperability, communications and technology, private sector, response and recovery, public health and community resilience, managing cyber and physical threats, and current and emerging trends. So if you are interested in submitting anything, an abstract, the portal is open already. It was open on the October 8th, and submit it to the portal by November 22nd, November 22nd.
And that meeting was March 10th and 12th, you said?
The governor's conference is March 12th, or yes, 10th and 12th, 10th through the 12th.
All right. Okay. Integrated preparedness plan?
So the integrated preparedness plan discussed in January, the components of the IPP, which is the integrated preparedness plan, consist of 3 preparedness priorities, 2 core capabilities to help address gaps in what they call POETI, which is planning, organizing, equipment or equipping, training, and exercising. So for the 2024, some of the things that we considered looking at and are working on are the continuity of operations, operational coordination, so that's mitigation and prevention, improve awareness and preparedness for volunteer-based and organizations. So we have a meeting with Red Cross coming up the end of the month. Meaning Michelle Edwards and I, and we have also been in touch with some of the high schools because they are our designated shelters. And then the public information warning element too is because we try to have 3 deep to respond as a public information officer, which is the person that you see on TV responding to an incident. And the people that we had trained in those positions have retired. So if anybody is interested, please feel free to step up and we can get you the PIO training if necessary. And would be glad to bring you on board. So that's one of the areas that we're still pretty weak on. And I know I'll be like busy, and so it will be hard for me to step into that spot if needed, but yes, go ahead. April is speaking, by the way. So what kind of certification? Perfect. For public information officer, you're our girl. We'll talk. Definitely. That's awesome. Sweet. Check that off the list. But it is the IPP is a living document. So what we try to address in 1 year, we accomplish what we can and either add it to the next year or we take it off and move on to something we feel is more pressing. This morning, Michelle and I were on a conference call that is about our, I always say it wrong, it's the HVA.
Hazard vulnerability assessment.
Which typically addresses the healthcare area. But it is not only that. It is all of the elements that are, and we talk about that frequently too, as far as what we have in the county. And then the HERC is who compiles kind of the whole thing for the region, but we have one for the county also. Is that on the website anyway, Michelle?
Our last assessment, we did it with the HERC, so it would be on the HERC's website.
Okay.
They would have it, so we're part of theirs.
Yeah. So one of the things that helps determine these issues and concerns is I'd like to ask, what is our biggest threat, hazard, or challenge? Would be our first one. Any input? What do we think is our biggest threat, hazard, or challenge? And the reason I'm using the LEPC is because we want this document to have input from the county, from all aspects of the county. So
I think that one of the things is our transportation. You know, we have trucks, we have trains going through here with various chemicals that we don't even know about some days. You know, if we had a train derailment downtown here with a train load of ethyl methyl diquickly on it, that'd be a, big issue. And we have had a few train derailments here, so it's not like it's something that hasn't happened.
And one of the things that we have available is a matrix where we talk about how it impacts the community. Is it a low probability but high impact, or is it a higher probability and a lower impact? So, and then you have a numbering system that we use. Where would you put that?
Well, I mean, I've seen a couple train derailments here, more than I've seen any like semis tip over with something in them. I don't know if you've had that, Mike, and around here.
Well, I think now with, the trains are coming through here less because of the tracks that got taken over by Wisco. So I don't think it's that big of an issue as it was in the past.
Okay.
I was just at a rail meeting this week and there's really only 2 customers left in Price County using the rail.
Okay.
And they're both wood
Products.
Okay.
So I would say semi trucks going down the road
Yeah,
with
yeah.
fuel is far bigger potential than a train.
Okay. Any other hazards?
I think maybe it would be hard for me to answer this question without knowing. I mean, there's like tons of things to look at and think about. So I don't know. It might be easier if they had the list that Kaiser Permanente, whatever it is, that has all of them. I mean, because they're talking like cyber attacks or weather related, big gatherings. I mean, it goes on and on. Is it tornadoes? I mean, we took off hurricanes and tsunamis, but it's a lot. So
Dam failure is on there.
yeah. So I don't know if you're wanting the committee's input on some of that, I mean, maybe if you give them a copy of that list or something so they could see all their choices. Kind of hard just to come up on the top of your head of.
Well,
what
and I
it is,
didn't,
I
and that's
think.
one of the
Yeah.
things that, I when in the past when I've met with people. So then the other thing is, so what changes and improvements should be made to the plans or procedures that we have? Some of those are, I've heard we want more training. And we need to be specific about that. When I request training, we have to have 12 people attending, and if we get less than that, it gets canceled. So that's kind of a dilemma where training is concerned. We are, unfortunately, we're not as populated as some of these other counties south of 29, and so we have more cancellations and trainings than not. But I can always request it, and we can always, if we can invite everybody from the state, and it is open. So something maybe, the procedures, do we need to make sure that we have the BART bus available if we need to, or I know that today on one of the meetings, I don't know if it was the one that you guys were on or not, they talked about some of these other elements and websites that we can use to help us analyze. So FEMA has a Wrapped, I think it's called, and I don't have it, but it helps you assess what you have in your community and then it goes down the whole list of what Michelle was talking about. It's like, is it hailstorms? Is it ice? Is it flooding? Is it wildfires? And so on, a pandemic, and what is going to impact and how is it going to impact your community? So I'm just trying to plant some seeds here, and I'll follow up, Michelle, excuse me, with sending out that. I can use the same format. It's not going to be very different from that. And then the recommendations for changes that are needed for organizational. Do we need to, I know that some people have talked to me about a CERT, which is a Community Emergency Response Team. The Price County used to have one, and it kind of went by the way. But if there's an interest in having a CERT team, is there something that we want to get our volunteer organizations, which is still on my list of this year, and I'm pretty sure I'm pushing it forward into 2024. We simply need volunteers, and we need to get them trained up, whether that's, so we had the Salvation Army had their canteen at our dam evacuation exercise up in Pixley Crowley, and there's nobody representing Salvation Army that could respond that particular day for their canteen. Red Cross, same thing. We have people that'll help set up the blood drives, but they're not here that can help respond in a disaster. So there are just some pretty big gaps, in my opinion. If we have a residential fire and we have displaced residents, we are calling people and they are traveling from typically hours away, and it's unfortunate because they're already traumatized, from having lost their place to live, and now they have to go through this whole procedure. And by the way, you have to wait because they're coming, but they're just not here yet. So I'd like to definitely make sure that we have some volunteers. And if you have any ideas or recommendations how we can support this effort, let me know. And then one of the other questions would be, should any changes to equipment or resources be something we should be looking at? Do we need more? Fill in the blank. We have hazmat spill response trailers in the community. But do we need, more road signs? Do we need more trained EMTs? But, fill in the blank, whatever you think is needed. So equipment and resources. And then what training is needed to increase the knowledge and understanding. So if there's particular training we want to see in the county. One of the things that is on my list is businesses and how they can make sure they can recover as quickly as possible. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, to get it straight in my head. So these questions, what are we asking those questions of? Like what you've identified on the HVA, or like what is your main thing that you're looking if you need equipment or if you need training or if you need, because I'm assuming there's multiple situations that we're not just randomly, are these things that you've identified or a person has identified on that hazard vulnerability, and then they say, we need more training in this because these are our top ones and we need more equipment to handle this? Or what's the situation that we're asking these questions about?
I would like the input from each individual representative. So if you're looking at the healthcare aspect or the public health elements of it, that's fine. That's how you should respond to these questions. If you're looking at it from law enforcement, if you're looking at it from a public service area, if you're looking at it from firefighters, or whatever your particular element, your group is, or how you want to respond to these is what I'm looking for. I compile that information, and then given what we can move forward on these, and it's a 3-year plan. It's like I said, it's a moving document, so things drop off, things get added, and then we look at lead agencies and who might help achieve those things. No?
I guess I still don't know what. So you have a plan that says, here's our area of need, and so you already know what that is, and then we're answering the questions?
Yeah,
Is
last
that
year
what
was the
it is?
first
Or-
year for this implementation, and so it was a steep learning curve for most every one of us. And so we kind of knew some of the areas, and we just kind of did the generic. We wanted to make sure that, okay, severe weather, can we educate people on flooding? So like this year at the dam exercise, we had people, when we did the evacuation drill, we had requested that they come back so that we can provide them with information that they might need, how to evacuate, what they might encounter if they do evacuate, high waters, have you got your pets and your papers and so on, and what they might come back to when they came back. It's just like you're going to come back to potentially toxic things. So make sure that you have boots or protective gear, gloves or a mask or so, and then, just simple things like if you're evacuating, make sure you have one thing that's personal, whether it's grandma's brooch or grandpa's, World War II photo or whatever it is. your favorite book or baby blanket, it doesn't matter. But I recommend that if you're evacuating, that you take one thing personal because it might be the only thing you have from your previous pre-disaster. But anyway, so this original document that came up last year is what we put together, and I can send it out to you guys as far as what was created, and then you can kind of look at what we've identified, and using those questions kind of say, no, we want you to focus more on, I know it's on my list of businesses, I want them, because the community covers quicker if their businesses can get back up and running as quickly as possible, regardless of what the environment is or the reason for the disaster. But the other thing is networking. Communities respond and recover quicker if you have a good network. So that's churches talking to, the law enforcement, and it's the Red Cross working with the Salvation Army and schools and football teams and soccer teams and volleyball teams and what, are we all community? If we all have a particular niche that we can help each other recover when it comes time, that is really, it's about networking, and you don't have to know everything, but if you have a good network, that's the community that's going to recover quicker. Anyway, that's my pitch for the day. But I can send you what we have in for this 2024 element, and then we can kind of build on it and again, using those questions. And I've talked to some folks throughout the year about the various things on here, because our goal is basically just to increase knowledge and make us a more resilient, more responsive community. So I'll talk with you, Michelle. I'm pretty sure so weather is typically kind of our biggest thing that happens up here. But because of how dry it's been, wildfire, to me was one of the things that kept kind of popping up. It's like, we have not had to deal with a wildfire. A wildfire is a very different beast. If you're flooding, it's going to be where the water is, and then it's going to go out from there. But what happens if you have, a widespread cyber attack, and all of a sudden, they're hitting your utilities? Are you prepared, and how are you prepared? So, and there's some things, we're never ever going to be fully prepared for everything, but part of the reduction in trauma comes from just having the knowledge on how to respond. So that's our hope, is to be able to recover quickly, prevent it from happening, and make sure that the people have the information needed. April, when did you get certified in your FEMA PIO training? Oh, you're good. Because that's one of the things, it really was, and it's about public information warning and the community resilience, and that's about getting the word out to the people that need to have it. So I know, I shouldn't say I know, we're not going to have a hurricane, that I'll say, but we can have very high waters. So North Dakota, Carolina, caught them off guard was that the amount of water that just stayed. So what happens if we get a lot of water that stays and or just keeps coming because it's raining up north? Anyway, I'll go on and on. Sorry.
Well, we had that CERT team here. That's been, God, I don't know, 20 years ago, I suppose.
So the problem with the CERT team, if you don't use the people, they're going to fall off. And that's the problem we had. We trained them up. You didn't use them.
Yeah.
So, it's unless you use them, it's never going to work.
And one thing that should be,
Is there any of that stuff left over there from?
Yeah.
There was backpacks.
Yeah, we
and
had
such?
green backpacks and
Yep, the green backpacks, they had goggles, they had gloves, they had, a few
Yeah.
masks and stuff,
Yeah,
but those are kind of old. The backpacks are still usable.
yeah. Because
Um,
I think when Dave Suntag was here, he would use them for, like traffic control and different,
Yeah, and that didn't go over well. So,
yeah.
yeah, they weren't trained. Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
So he had good intentions, but yeah.
Yeah. And then like first responders, we don't have any in Phillips. Catawba has them and Park Falls, Prentice, but Phillips won't, they won't do it.
So the city of Phillips, we respond to every med call. So we beat the ambulance there. So we're all,
Right. But I mean, as far as, people in the country, I mean, there's,
Correct.
we have none here. And I brought it up to our town chairman and it's this, the ambulance crew doesn't, or, they don't want to do it.
and that's one thing that concerns me because our ambulance service here, Central Price, is getting exhausted with covering all the calls in Prentice. So that worries me because half of our EMTs are going to be set to retire here in the next 4 to 5 years. Then what?
Yeah.
And we're not getting really, many younger people joining. So
and that could easily go on this integrated preparedness plan because we know that volunteerism is down across the board. Firefighting and EMTs are just one of them. And I know I talked about shelter care and some of the other things that we used to have a lot of volunteers for. I did attend one of the conferences about the future of EMS response, and it is probably just a matter of time before they're going to have paid staff because it's just you're not getting the volunteers like you used to. And statutorily, municipalities, I shouldn't say that, I should say towns are required to identify response for law enforcement and health and human services. And that's for the health and welfare of the community they represent. So it may come down to having to resort to paid staff. There's a lot of miles that 3 ambulance already cover, and we have 8 fire departments in the county, but 3 ambulance services. And there's, speaking for the Prentice Ambulance Service, when we respond, it's a long way potentially to one spot just to get to the person, and then it's another 20 to 45 minutes to get them to a facility of healthcare. So it's that golden hour can go by pretty fast.
I think when we had gotten quite a few people to become EMTs, I mean, it was, 15, 20 years ago, I suppose, already when we had a big influx, and it was because of the snowmobile clubs. The snowmobile clubs all got together and said, we got to have some people in there because we were having snowmobile accidents, and these accidents are not accessible most of the time. But now we have ATVs, and we're seeing more ATV accidents. And I mean, I'm kind of thinking maybe we should be asking ATV clubs, because we do have a pretty good selection of clubs now, if they would have people that would be interested. And, even as first responders, that would really be a bonus because you can't get to a lot of these places with an ambulance. So that just, something that happened years ago. We went to the clubs and the clubs got involved, and something we should, something to look at.
Well, I'm probably going to end up putting that on our our IPP just because we know that there's a need. And I believe as of next year, training for EMS the hours are required hours are going to be increased. Phil Bachler, are you still on?
Yeah, he must be gone.
Okay. That was one of the other things that was brought up at this conference was that the additional training that's required. We've seen it happen in the fire departments, hazmat, and now there's going to be even more hours required to become an EMT. So get your training in before November if you can.
All right. Anything else? Anybody got anything else for the good of the group?
I didn't send it out, but I will. One of the things that I have is the most common EHSs in fixed facilities in Price County, and it was talked about earlier. Chlorine is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 11 places, and the rest are sulfuric acid for the most part. Plating, Phillips Plating has a few other things, but so all in all, we're not doing too bad in Price County as far as hazmat and extremely hazardous substance. But no, thank you.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of that discussion, I guess. Unless you have anything else, otherwise our next meeting, we should schedule that. That'll be January 3rd Wednesday,
15th.
January 15th.
Of 2025.
Yep.
So when I send this out to you folks, and if you would respond, that would be appreciative. And otherwise, I can talk to you one-on-one also, and I've done that in the past too. So thank you.
Put this on here before I forget about it.
Is meeting adjourned?
Motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Okay.
Seconded. Oh, don't
Okay.
need a motion.
We are adjourned.
We're out of
January-
here.
January 15th, next meeting.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming on.